So I know that there was a movie where Ross Lynch played Jeffrey Dahmer. So I assume that he doesn't always look and act the way that he does when he's portraying Harvey and the way he's acted in every Disney thing I've ever seen him in. But man, that's hard to believe. So basically, there was a hilarious scene where the character formerly known as Susie had come out as a trans guy named Theo, and Roz sits Harvey down and gives him an educational talk explaining being trans. And, Roz is like, Theo is a guy, like, we just have to accept that he's always been a guy. And Harvey is supposed to have a supportive response, but because he's so dopey, his response is like, oh, okay, like, Theo it is then, haha. And, like, it made the scene seem weirdly sinister, like Harvey was either like a pod person because no one would sort of like have this weird like surfer guy laughing response, or that like Harvey was making fun of Theo being trans, which clearly wasn't the intention. I will say I like that the show just went there and said that he was a guy. Like, I think I complained the previous part, like, obviously they were trying to explore the character being non-binary, but it didn't come off at all, which I think is maybe due to it being a genre show. Like, they can't spend all their time explaining that. But it was very obvious to me from reading, like, fan forums and stuff that, like, it didn't come across to people at all. So, they just came out and said that he's a trans guy. A few things about that. They rather awkwardly tried to sort of explore this through saying, oh, he wants to be on the boys basketball team, like, will they accept him as like a boy on the team? But it's sort of complicated by the fact that there's no girls team, so even if he was a girl, if he wanted to play basketball, he would have to be on the boys team, so it's not really clear that he wants to be on it because he's a boy. And then, like, the reason they don't want him on it isn't really because they don't think he's a boy, it's because he's not good, and then he only gets on it because of magic, so that was kind of an unfortunate implication. But, like, overall, I really thought it was fine, and I thought it was interesting that the show kind of, like, made a big focus on saying, like, he doesn't have to, like, medically transition unless he wants to, and, like, what he really cares about the most is just being accepted as a guy. And, I think you don't often see portrayals of being trans focused on that, and everybody is different in terms of, like, what they want and need, so I thought that was kind of cool. There was an odd episode where everybody had a dream sequence again, but they were great dream sequences. They were so weird and interesting. Harvey's was for some reason just like the H.P. Lovecraft story Pigman's Model, but about Harvey. Anyway, Theo's is about how he tries to use magic to medically transition, and, like, I mean, given, like, the state of things and the fact that I feel like people didn't even seem to have gotten, like, what happened in this show, which was quite basic, like, theoretically, I feel like they could sort of do an interesting exploration of how, like, in real life, like, a person might feel insecure and feel like, a medical transition might not, like, they would still feel insecure that maybe they wouldn't, like, pass or, like, look perfect or something like that. So they might, so somebody might have this idea that, like, they would try to use magic so that they could look, like, exactly the way that they wanted to look. But instead, it's, like, he uses magic to transition, but, like, he looks exactly the same. And they just put, like, a filter effect on his voice to try to make him sound like a man, but he didn't sound, he sounded like a robot instead. So interesting. Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking through my notes. If I'm going to continue critiquing things social justice-ly, I don't think I mentioned this that much before, but the depiction of blindness obviously is very stupid. I wasn't going to say anything, but I just read this post today by, like, a blind person talking about it, and, like, it is quite dumb. Like, Roz is going to go blind, and, like, all the women in her family are blind, but none of them use canes or guide dogs or, like, screen readers or any sort of assistive technology, and she doesn't know about those things, and she's basically like, oh, if I, like, turn out to be blind, I'll have to go to a school for the blind and I'll just never come back. What? Okay. I mean, it's not quite as bad as the previous section of the show where she was like, when I go blind, I'll never be able to read books again. Okay, if that's what you think. But, it was over pretty quickly because, this isn't a spoiler-free review, by the way. I'm gonna spoil everything. Okay. Yeah, she goes blind, thinks it's Sabrina's fault, even though all the women in her family are blind and she knew she was going to go blind. But then she gets cured. Um, so they didn't really do anything with that. That's okay, I guess. It's just, it's just kind of annoying when, like, they try to say that all the women in her family are blind, but they don't do, like, obvious things that, like, blind people would do in real life. So my biggest complaint is the big bad, the whole arc of the show. That's the only thing wrong with it, just the whole thing. Like, in the details, I enjoyed everything about it, but, yeah, the devil, the big bad is just the devil, and this season ends with Sabrina just defeating the devil. And I don't really know where the show is supposed to go from here. Like, every single, like, thing that they set up about the life and the world of the show has all been, like, destroyed. And also, like, what is bigger than the devil? Like, I can only assume that in the second season they're going to defeat God. And then, like, in the third season, I don't know what they're supposed to do after that. Kind of reminds me of the Shel Silverstein poem where the guy wants to eat everything, and it ends with him floating in, like, empty space, having eaten all of the planets and eaten himself, and there's just a pair of jaws. Like, I feel like Sabrina will be in that situation by, like, the third season. Yeah. So, I just thought the devil was such a, like, ultimate villain, wasn't well built up to, and I'm just not sure that I want that as a villain in this show anyway. Apparently in the comics, her dad is the villain, and I guess they didn't want to do that, but they just gave all that stuff that her dad does to the devil. And then, by the way, they were like, oh, the devil is actually her dad. Okay, whatever. But if Edward Spellman was the villain, I just think it would have been a much more appropriate scale for the show. I thought Prudence was the most improved character. I didn't really care for her before, but I thought she was, like, had a good arc, just was really interesting and sympathetic. I really like her. I love the Mandrake, who is a plant who, gets grown and looks exactly like Sabrina and tries to take over her life. There are many things I enjoyed about this character. One thing I like is, like, I feel like in this type of story they usually have the person be revealed to be an imposter by not knowing, like, facts about the person's life, but instead the Mandrake knew, like, tons of facts about Sabrina's life and was just kind of randomly listing them. I liked the fact that people didn't believe that the Mandrake was Sabrina immediately because she acted so weird. And I don't know, I just thought the character was, like, very sweet and, like, much better and more interesting than, like, a sort of one episode villain had any right to be. Like, she just, like, really was excited to be alive and wanted to be loved by everybody in Sabrina's life, like, to the point that even after Sabrina has killed her, she's very sympathetic to her. More spoilers. You're not gonna get out of this unscathed. You're going to hear everything that happens. What other notes do I have? I really liked the whole thing with the character of Adam. That just delighted me. Like, I was like, okay, like, they went there. This lady is falling in love with the boyfriend of the person she killed and assumed the identity of, and that's fine. He is healing her evilness with love because he thinks she's somebody else, and now, the devil has killed him and fed him to her to tell her that she can't ever escape from the devil. Sure, okay, great, I love it. Yeah, although then at the end they bring back Miss Wardwell and you're supposed to think that's cool, but her boyfriend has horribly been murdered. When's she going to find out about that? Is she just gonna think her boyfriend just left? Because that's, like, that also would be traumatic, to think that he just disappeared and, like, randomly left you and never returned. Nick, a very boring character. This is something where, like, I don't understand the fandom at all. I honestly think Harvey is a better character. Like, he's so, like, hapless and, like, silly. I think that's fun. I like that Sabrina treated him like he was, like, her dog. And Nick is just kind of there. And then, like, there's the whole part where, like, one assumes the fact that he randomly approached Sabrina and became friends with her, like, that seems creepy. Maybe the devil is making him do it. Then at the end, he's like, oh, the devil made me be friends with you. And Sabrina's like, oh, is that why you randomly approached me? And he's like, no, I did that first. I actually liked you. So it still doesn't make any sense. I think I'm running out of space on my phone, so this video is just going to cut off at any moment. Yeah, so that's fun. People kept being seduced by Sabrina's singing voice, but Kiernan Shipka's voice is very, like, sweet and kind of childlike. Like, you know, she comes out to the devil, who I think wants to marry her as well as being her dad, and she starts singing Phantom of the Opera, and she's like, masquerade, paper faces on parade, masquerade. And like, I think it's hard to whisper when you're singing and make it sound good, and it wasn't working. And also there's a later part where Nick is like, Sabrina, I've been in love with you like ever since I first heard you sing. And it's like, wow, okay, you have. I don't think it's bad or anything to have Ambrose be bisexual and have him be involved with a guy and then a girl. I think that's actually cool. But like, his boyfriend Luke sucked, was really underdeveloped, and like, they were together because Luke was given a love potion and this was never addressed and Ambrose never even knew about it. So like, just kind of annoying. I kind of was shipping Ambrose with Dorian Gray. I wish that would have worked out because, like, I don't know, just with like the little bit of time they had together, I thought that would have been really great. Well, that's about all my notes. I really, really enjoyed it. Like, I mean, I thought the overarching plot was stupid, but like every single detail I thought was great up until the last episode when it got really annoying. But the show just has so many like interesting and weird ideas. Like Nick's familiar being like a wolf wearing a dress who like is sort of like his family member, but also like is really jealous of him having sex with women and wants to kill them. Okay, I like it. Horrible dialogue sample. Ambrose, who previously was dating a man, plays God in the school play. And Prudence comes up and says he did a good job. And Ambrose says, oh yeah, am I going to convert you? And Prudence says, oh, I don't know. Like, am I going to convert you? And Ambrose is like, you don't need to. I'm a polytheist, meaning that he's bisexual. Anyway, I really like the show. I'm sorry I spoiled all of it. You definitely should still watch it. Oh, I was also gonna say, like, even though Theo's character was, like, very much always defined by being trans, which was, too bad, I really thought towards the end of the season, like, the actor and character was just hilarious, and, I really hope that he has, like, more to do in future. Although I still don't understand, like, what the show could be in the future. Was it just, like, a one-season show? Yeah, I'm not really sure. But yeah, Theo really made me laugh with like the Mandrake and a lot of stuff. I like that he's somewhat physically like unprepossessing. I don't know if that's the right word. And then he just like is brutal. Anyways,